The next sutta is 47.4. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Kosalans at the Brahmin village of Sala. There the Blessed One addressed the monks thus: Monks, those monks who are newly ordained, not long gone forth, recently come to this Dhammavinaya, should be exhorted, settled, and established by you in the development of the four Satipatthanas. What for? Come friends, dwell contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, unified, with limpid mind, concentrated, with one pointed mind, in order to know the body as it really is. Similarly, dwell contemplating feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, ardent, clearly comprehending, unified, with limpid mind, concentrated, with one pointed mind, in order to know the body, feelings, mind and Dhamma as they really are. I'll stop here for a moment. It's quite important here. The Buddha says you have to contemplate the four Satipatthanas, one pointed mind, in order to know the four objects as they really are. And the Buddha always says in the suttas that to see things as they really are, the condition is one pointed mind, concentrated mind. That's why here it's stated to know things as they really are, you need concentrated one pointed mind. Monks, those monks who are trainees, who have not attained the mind's ideal, who dwell aspiring for the unsurpassed security from bondage, they too dwell contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, unified, with limpid mind, concentrated, with one pointed mind, in order to fully understand the body as it really is. They too dwell contemplating feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, ardent, clearly comprehending, unified, with limpid mind, concentrated, with one pointed mind, in order to fully understand the four objects as they really are. Monks, those monks who are arahants, whose asavas are destroyed, who have lived the holy life, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, reached their own goal, utterly destroyed the fetters of existence, and are completely liberated through final knowledge. They too dwell contemplating the body in the body, feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, ardent, clearly comprehending, unified, with limpid mind, concentrated, with one pointed mind. Monks, those monks who are newly ordained, not long gone forth, recently come to this Dhammavinaya, should be exhorted, settled, and established by you in the development of these four Satipatthanas. So, the Buddha, his disciples, the monks, when they are ordained, first they have to learn this Vinaya, which will teach them to uphold the Sila, and they have to learn the Suttas. During the Buddha's days, they had no books, so they had to memorize the Suttas. All of them had to memorize the Suttas. So then at the same time, they are taught this meditation. So the important point in this sutta is that when you practice the four Satipatthanas also, the mind has got to be one-pointed, concentrated in order to know the four objects of Satipatthana as they really are. In the Buddha Suttas, when he says concentrated or concentration, he always refers to the jhanas, the four jhanas, first jhana, second jhana, third and fourth jhana. 47.5 at Savatthi. There the Blessed One said, Monks, if one were to say of anything, a heap of the unwholesome, it is about the 5 hindrances that one could rightly say this. For this is a complete heap of the unwholesome, that is, the 5 hindrances. What 5? The hindrance of sensual desire, the hindrance of ill will, the hindrance of sloth and torpor, the hindrance of restlessness and remorse, the hindrance of doubt. If one were to say of anything, a heap of the unwholesome, it is about these 5 hindrances that one could rightly say this. For this is a complete heap of the unwholesome, that is, the 5 hindrances. If monks, one were to say of anything, a heap of the wholesome, it is about the 4 Satipatthanas, intense states of recollection, that one could rightly say this. For this is a complete heap of the wholesome, that is, the four intense states of recollection. What for? Here monks, among dwells contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, recollected, having removed covetousness and grief in regard to the world. Similarly, he dwells contemplating feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, ardent, clearly comprehending, recollected, having removed covetousness and grief in regard to the world. If one were to say of anything, a heap of the wholesome, it is about these four intense states of recollection that one could rightly say this. For this is a complete heap of the wholesome, that is, the four intense states of recollection. It's the end of the sutta. So here, the sutta says, the four satipatthanas are complete, a heap of the wholesome, and the five hindrances are completely unwholesome. So this is quite similar to the seven bojjhangas, seven factors of enlightenment suttas that we went through, where the Buddha said that the seven bojjhangas are completely wholesome, whereas the five hindrances are completely unwholesome. So it's a bit similar. Okay, the next sutta is also a very important sutta. It gives a very beautiful simile. 47.6. Monks, once in the past, a hawk suddenly swooped down and seized a quail. Then while the quail was being carried off by the hawk, he lamented, "We were so unlucky, of so little merit. We strayed out of our own resort into the domain of others. If we had stayed in our own resort today, in our own ancestral domain, this hawk wouldn't have stood a chance against me in a fight." And then this hawk said, "But what is your own resort, quail? What is your own ancestral domain?" And the quail said, "The freshly ploughed field covered with clods of soil." Then the hawk, confident of her own strength, not boasting of her own strength, released the quail, saying, "Go now, quail, but even there you won't escape me." Then monks, the quail went to a freshly ploughed field covered with clods of soil. Having climbed up on a large clod, he stood there and addressed the hawk, "Come get me now, hawk, come get me now, hawk." Then the hawk, confident of her own strength, not boasting of her own strength, folded up both her wings and suddenly swooped down on the quail. But when the quail knew that hawk has come close, he slipped inside that clod, and the hawk shattered her breast right on the spot. So it is, monks, when one strays outside one's own resort into the domain of others. Therefore, monks, do not stray outside your own resort into the domain of others. Mara will gain access to those who stray outside their own resort into the domain of others. Mara will get a hold on them. And what is not a monk's own resort, but the domain of others? It is the five causes of sensual pleasure. What five? Forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. Similarly, sounds, odors, taste, touch that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. These are the five causes of sensual pleasure. This is what is not a monk's own domain, but the domain of others. Move in your own resort, monks, in your own ancestral domain. Mara will not gain access to those who move in their own resort, in their own ancestral domain. Mara will not get a hold on them. And what is a monk's resort, his own ancestral domain? It is the four intense states of recollection. What for? Here, monks, a monk dwells contemplating the body in the body, feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, ardent, clearly mindful, recollected, having removed covetousness and grief in regard to the world. This is a monk's resort, his own ancestral domain. That's the end of the sutta. So from this sutta, the Buddha is saying that if we put our attention and we contemplate or pay attention of worldly objects like sight, sound, smell, taste and touch, we can get caught. They get caught by Mara, just like this quail. It ventured out of her own territory, got caught by the hawk. So when she went back to her own territory, then the hawk would not get her because she jumped into the hole underneath the clod of earth. So we are protected when we put our attention on these four things because we are not going into Mara's domain. Mara's domain, in some other suttas is mentioned, Mara's bait. Mara has 6 hooks trying to hook us just like a fisherman putting out bait. So Mara entices us with beautiful forms, with nice sounds, with nice pleasant odors, great taste and touch. So if we go and pay attention to these things that are enticing, exciting, then we get caught by Mara. And that is why sati, the practice of sati or satipatthana, is always important to remember to withdraw our attention from worldly objects to these 4 objects that are beneficial to us, contemplating the body, feelings, the mind, and the Buddha's Dhamma. The next sutta is also quite similar. It gives a simile, but it's another beautiful simile. 47.7. Monks, in the Himalayas, the king of mountains, there are rugged and uneven zones where neither monkeys nor human beings can go. There are rugged and uneven zones where monkeys can go, but not human beings. There are even and delightful regions where both monkeys and humans can go. There, along the monkey trails, hunters set out traps of pitch for catching monkeys. I'll stop here for a moment. These traps of pitch is supposed to be this like bitumen, it's very gluey. If a monkey touches it, he get glued, can't pull himself away. Those monkeys who are not foolish and frivolous, when they see the pitch, avoid it from afar. But a monkey who is foolish and frivolous approaches the pitch and seizes it with his hand. He gets caught there. You see what happens is this hunter, he brings a kind of a stick, almost like a branch like that, and then he puts his fruits and all that for the monkey, to attract the monkey. Sometimes they put coconut and all that, but put bananas and all that. So this, so many monkeys in the group. Some are more experienced. They see this, they sense danger, they won't go near. But these young fellows, they are hungry and they are greedy. It's like a greedy pup. They will go near and they see the fruit, they cannot resist. Saliva coming down already. So they go there and they grab. But this fruit probably is sticking to the pitch, like glue. So once he grabs, the hand gets caught there. He gets caught there. Thinking, I will free my hand. He seizes it with his other hand. He gets caught there too. Thinking, I will free both hands. He seizes it with his foot. He gets caught there. Thinking, I will free both hands and my foot. He seizes it with his other foot. He gets caught there. Thinking, I will free both hands and feet. He applies his muzzle or mouth to it. He gets caught there too. Thus monks, that monkey, trapped at 5 points, lies there screeching. He has met with calamity and disaster, and the hunter can do with him as he wishes. The hunter spears him, fastens him to that same block of wood, and goes off where he wants. So it is, monks, when one strays outside one's own resort into the domain of others. Therefore, monks, do not stray outside your own resort into the domain of others. Mara will gain access to those who stray outside their own resort into the domain of others. Mara will get a hold on them. And what is not a monk's own resort but the domain of others? It is the 5 causes of sensual pleasure, namely sight, sounds, smells, tastes and touch, which are enticing. This is what is not a monk's own resort but the domain of others. Move in your own resort, monks, in your own ancestral domain. Mara will not gain access to those who move in their own resort, in their own ancestral domain. Mara will not get a hold on them. And what is a monk's resort? His own ancestral domain. It is the 4 intense states of recollection. What 4? Here monks, a monk dwells contemplating the body in the body, feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma, ardent, clearly aware, recollected, having removed covetousness and grief in regard to the world. This is a monk's resort, his own ancestral domain. So here, this another beautiful simile. And here it says this monkey, this greedy monkey, is caught at 5 points: the 2 hands, the 2 feet, and the mouth. Right? And these 5 points symbolizes the 5 areas when Mara can catch us: sights, sounds, smells, taste, and touch. So that's why it is dangerous to go out into the world and when you want to enjoy worldly pleasures, you get caught. So you stay in Vihara is much safer. The next sutta is also a very, very good and important sutta, 47.8. Monks, suppose a foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook were to present a king or a royal minister with various kinds of curries: sour, bitter, pungent, sweet, sharp, mild, salty, bland. That foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook does not pick up the sign of his own master's preference. For example, today this curry pleased my master, or he reached for this one, or he took a lot of this one, or he spoke in praise of this one, or the sour curry pleased my master today, or he reached out for the sour one, or he took a lot of the sour one, or he spoke in praise of the sour one. Or similarly, of the bitter curry, or the pungent curry, or the sweet curry, or the sharp curry, or the mild curry, or the salty curry, or the bland curry pleased my master, or he spoke in praise of it. That foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook does not gain gifts of clothing, wages, and bonuses. For what reason? Because that foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook does not pick up the sign of his own master's preference. So too monks. Here some foolish, incompetent, unskillful monk dwells contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly mindful, recollected, having removed covetousness and grief in regard to the world. While he dwells contemplating the body in the body, his mind does not become concentrated. His corruptions are not abandoned. He does not pick up that sign. Similarly, he dwells feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma. While he dwells contemplating these 4 objects of Satipatthana, his mind does not become concentrated. His corruptions are not abandoned. He does not pick up that sign. The foolish, incompetent, unskillful monk does not gain pleasant dwellings in this very life, nor does he gain recollection and mindfulness. For what reason? Because monks, that foolish, incompetent, unskillful monk does not pick up the sign of his own mind. I finish the sutta first before we explain. Suppose monks, a wise, competent, skillful cook, were to present a king or a royal minister with various kinds of curries: sour, bitter, pungent, sweet, sharp, mild, salty, bland. That wise, competent, skillful cook picks up the sign of his own master's preference. For example, today this curry pleased my master, or he spoke in praise of that one. That wise, competent, skillful cook gains gifts of clothing, wages, and bonuses. For what reason? Because that wise, competent, skillful cook picks up the sign of his own master's preference. So too monks, here some wise, competent, skillful monk dwells contemplating the body in the body, feelings in feelings, mind in mind, Dhamma in Dhamma. While he dwells contemplating, his mind becomes concentrated, his corruptions are abandoned, he picks up that sign. That wise, competent, skillful monk gains pleasant dwellings in this very life, and he gains recollection and clear awareness. For what reason? Because monks, that wise, competent, skillful monk picks up the sign of his own mind. It's an interesting sutta. The Buddha gives this simile about the cook who cooks for the king, and the foolish cook does not notice, does not pay attention to what the master likes to eat. So because he does not pay attention, he does not serve the master with exactly the type of food that the master likes. So the master is not happy with him, so he does not get bonus and all that. Whereas the wise cook, he will notice exactly what the master prefers and cooks exactly what the master prefers. Then he gets the bonus and all that. So the Buddha says, in the same way, a monk, when he practices the 4 Satipatthanas, his mind does not become concentrated. His corruptions are not abandoned. Corruptions refers to his 5 hindrances, his kilesas. His 5 hindrances are not abandoned. And then this monk, he does not notice, does not pay attention why the mind does not become concentrated. So because of that, this foolish monk, this unskillful monk, does not gain pleasant dwellings in this very life. Pleasant dwellings means, normally in the suttas, it means if a monk attains the jhanas, then he's usually dwelling very happily, blissed out every day. Nor does he gain sati sampajanya. So, in other words, if one practices satipatthana and the mind does not become concentrated and attain the jhanas, that means he is not skillful, that monk is not skillful. And he does not attain sati sampajanya. That means he is not really practicing sati sampajanya. He only thinks that he is practicing sati sampajanya. And then on the other hand, the skillful monk, he practices in the right way, and the mind becomes concentrated. His 5 hindrances are abandoned, and he pays attention to that sign. What is that sign? The sign is what are the things the mind prefers. Just like the master has a certain preference or certain taste. So similarly, when we meditate, we have to see the conditions that make our mind calm down. In other words, you have to notice your object of meditation that is suitable for you. Some people, they meditate certain objects, they just cannot calm down. For example, a lot of people practice anapanasati, the mind cannot calm down because it's a very fine object, too fine. Whereas if you do simple chanting, then the mind can stay with the chanting. That's why the first meditation the Buddha taught is actually chanting on the 32 parts of the body. So here it says the skillful monk, his mind becomes concentrated and the 5 hindrances are abandoned. He gains sati sampajanya. That means he attains sati sampajanya, recollection and mindfulness. And why? Because he notices the sign of his own mind. He notices the preference of the mind. So it is not only has to do with the object of meditation. You have to see other conditions. Maybe a certain place is too noisy. You go and practice in a meditation center that's in the heart of town, next to a market and all that, with a lot of noise. How can your mind calm down? The vibes are also no good. Whereas you go to a quiet place like VBG, and vibrations are good, and air is very clear, the water is from the hills, then the conditions are good, right, then your mind can more easily come down. So the environment is another thing, object of meditation is another thing, and then the time of your meditation also. If you come back from office and your mind is all disturbed, you try to meditate, that's not a good time. A very good time I suggest to people is early in the morning, just after you wake up. Just after you wake up, your body is not so tired, although your mind is still sleepy. So that is a good time to meditate early in the morning. So in this practice of the 4 Satipatthana, we have to be very observant like the cook. The cook has to notice what the master likes. So in the same way, we have to notice what our mind likes, what our mind inclines to. So you have to notice all these conditions. And one day, if you have a good meditation, you have to ask yourself, why today the meditation is so good? Then you have start considering, maybe because today I didn't flare up, didn't lose my temper. All that. So all these things, you have to. These are very practical instructions where we can use. That's why a lot of people don't understand. They think that the suttas are just dry stuff, just theory only. There's a lot of practical instructions in the suttas. If only you take the trouble to go and see. You can't get these instructions from any meditation teacher, because the best meditation teacher is our Buddha. All his instructions are very clear here already. Why you go and look for some present-day monks? They can never come near the Buddha standard. So for the suttas, we finish for tonight. Anything to discuss?
Mindfulness of the body is the topic. How do we concentrate on the body?
These Buddha's disciples, if they want to practice for liberation, they have to try to maintain their mindfulness 24 hours a day. So even though they lie down to rest, to sleep, actually they try not to sleep. They try to maintain their mindfulness. So for example, like the first meditation, the Buddha taught 32 parts of the body. So the monk chants head, hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bone, marrow, kidney, heart, etc. So when he lies down, he will still continue that chant. That's why the chanting is very useful, in that even when you go and rest, you still practice it. So that's why the Buddha's disciples, they practice to the extent that up to the extent when the mindfulness is maintained 24 hours a day. That's why all arahants have mindfulness 24 hours a day. So nowadays some meditation masters, they don't understand. Either they don't understand or because they themselves cannot practice to that stage. They say you can sleep. Sleep. When you fall asleep, be mindful just before you fall asleep. You can be mindful before you fall asleep, but after you fall asleep, you are no more mindful. Hokkien say pang tua chia liao, đã kỳ cả tự lộ nè. Satipatthana-samyutta, we haven't come to it, ma. Okay. Yeah.
According to the Sutta, we are supposed to be perfect, well-maintained at the same time. So, are we supposed to concentrate on that, or
feelings?
I think the four contemplations.
What page is that?
1765.
1765. Okay. Where's the part?
The second paragraph.
Okay. So which line are you talking about?
For example, experiencing the whole body, everything, experiencing the whole body. I thought it was supposed to be.
This whole body is the breath body. So when the breath goes in, goes out, that is experiencing the whole body, the breath body.
Then experiencing the actual ideas.
This one, when the rapture is a piti, when piti arises, he knows that piti arises. So he still breathes in, breathes out. He still knows. This is in the first jhana. When he attains the first jhana, he is still aware of his breath. Okay? So he's just aware only. At the same time, he's aware of his breath. At the same time, he's aware of the piti, the delight that arises. He's aware of the happiness that arises. Some of these contemplations, like 32 parts of the body, it's more for monastics, monks and nuns. Because some lay people, they practice already after they are no more interested in their wife or their husband. They can meditate at the same time. You encourage them to study the suttas. The two can go hand in hand. Because for lay people, you can't spend a lot of time in this spiritual pursuit. So if you can, like early in the morning when you get up, do some meditation. Then when you come back from office, you study the suttas, because your mind is tired, your body is tired, not suitable for meditation. And in the free time you have before you go to sleep, study the suttas or listen to the suttas. So the two can go hand in hand. Okay, shall we end tonight?